Well, hi everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube art tutorial channel. I'm a professional artist working from my studio in Essex. Well, hi everyone. I'm back in the studio now, and had a lovely trip first to Herefordshire, to Molehill Hut. Then I came from there down to Cornwall and Padstow. But what I'm going to do now, I made a series of sketches, watercolour and ink and watercolour, and what I'm going to do now is try and relive those moments and produce a full-blown watercolour. Well, these are basically the materials. I've got there's 4 brushes there: large mop, medium mop. This one doesn't point. I do have a flat here in case I need to flick in some I don't know, vegetation, foliage details, and of course the rigger. And the palette is my normal palette, the same as I always use. In it, although I won't be using all of it, burnt sienna, raw sienna, cadmium yellow, Windsor blue or Prussian blue. It's probably a bit of mix of both because I use both. Cobalt blue, French ultramarine, cadmium red, cadmium lemon, light red, burnt umber, Indian red, alizarin crimson. I have a Payne's grey that I may use today because this is going to be a wet drizzly scene, and another cadmium lemon. All I'm going to do now is quite simply damp one of my mop brushes and just freshen them up. Now if you notice, I've not got a lot of paint in some of them, but what I want to do, and what I do occasionally, is to try and use, particularly when I'm painting this sort of subject, because it really is a dull subject, not too worried if I pick up you know, if I don't get really clean colours, because I don't really want them today, because this scene is a wet, dreary day on the outskirts of Hereford itself, Hereford town, and very close to my accommodation for that week, Molehill Hut. Now, for those of you that were quite observant, I'm not actually gonna use a pencil. I'm going to just purely map out the scene purely with colour. So I'm using a little bit of raw sienna, a little bit of one or two of the other colours, but I'll explain as I go along. And the first thing I'm going to do is establish the road. And it wants to be sort of like there, that's the distance, and a little hair from the brush, and it widens considerably as it comes down, and this is purely raw sienna really. Plenty of water of course to start with. It runs out of picture onto the left like that. Then as it comes forward, I'm going to use a bit of light red into that, because it's a red that's not too powerful, because I want a bit of warmth. I'm always interested in creating warmth in my subjects, as you know. So that's established that. Now I'm going to change to my large brush and create a sky. And this, because I've put that road in, I can now see where the sky and where everything will fit. First thing I'm going to use is Payne's grey. And I've not damped the paper for this, but I'm using a a fully loaded brush like that. So I'm damping the paper really with the paint. That's basically what I'm doing, and that is Winsor & Newton Artist Quality Payne's grey, and the Artist Quality will come up slightly blue. I think you can probably see that. You may get a bit of shine from the light, but as it dries you will see the colour completely, and it's coming down as far as the distance area there, and what I want to do is just blur that in. So I'm laying that into the path now in a blurred fashion, like that. There we are. So that's all pulling all together. Then I'm going out to the outer edge, and that is the start of the sky colour. Now before I go darker with that, I want to put in a little bit of warmth. I'm using the light red because that, I think, get rid of that run, that I'm sure will help the overall feeling. A bit of cad red in there as well. Go. Drying very quickly, purely because sun's shining outside, and I'm painting a damp scene. I'm putting a bit of blue in just to help, you know, give the feeling of a decent bit of light. But see how that light glows there. Right, now I'm using Payne's Grey again in a more sort of darker theme, and a lot of my dark clouds will be at the top, and I'm going to leave some of this other colour just showing through. A bit of blue perhaps on that outer edge, just to give it just a little bit of feeling of shadow or sunlight if we need to. There we go. Look at that lovely swathe. And as we come down now, I'm cleaning the brush and I'm introducing light red to this lower area. It's just that light red that makes all the difference to the look of this scene. And just going to be a bit careful, working at an angle, but I just want to make certain that I'm lifting off in places so as it doesn't extend too far down. And this is going to be introduced. I don't want that. I don't want too much now of a clear indication of where the path is, just really to map it out to start. That's it. And then I'm just running that down to there. So really the sky dominates now, and I know roughly where the road is. Just a couple of other dark areas of Payne's Grey. Just watch the amount of water we use here, otherwise it could get a little. There we are. There we go. That's it. And the lovely feeling of rain coming down from that sky. Now I've used cobalt blue with raw sienna, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this flat brush to take away just to mop away some colour, because I don't want that to now run into that forward this area here. So a little bit of raw sienna and cobalt blue for more or less the distant hills, and not hills but greens in the distance, and somewhere it's going to be really blue, and I've not really picked that up. So there you go, that's what I want. And a little bit there as it goes around the corner. Perfect. Next area will be sort of grey trees, raw sienna, light red, and a little cobalt, because these are the sort of trees that are just at the edge. Just running down a tad, so I'll just pick a bit of that back. It goes around, there we are, that's looking good. And just get a little bit of softening of this distant land, bit more blue now into that. It's like a grey mix really, and some blue, and that finishes somewhere here really. There we go. I love producing these full-blown paintings after I get home from a trip, because it makes all the difference. Two little touches where it's gone dry, tops of more local trees, but other than that, that's it. And then on the right, I'm going to clean the brush thoroughly. We do have a sparkle of light, so I'm using raw sienna in a fairly neat form and let that grow up round and just go around the corner there like that. That's the bank. May need to do more to it than that, but at this stage we've got to be careful we don't overdo that. And it was a dank day, but you still see a little bit of the warmth from the undergrowth there. Go. We'll create the turn very shortly, and a bit more here. Well, sort of like a field that runs across there, so we're going to sort of define where that goes to a certain extent. There we are. And now we are really creating the run-in to the road. See, the road is really beginning to form now. And I think that gives us sort of like a feeling of that sort of damp sort of feel. And because I've lifted away in the distance, that's now not running down into the road, because I want that to remain its original colour. Now I've allowed that to completely dry. We'll use the smaller mop now, the one that doesn't point. You can see there's a little bit of cockling of the paper there, but I'm not too concerned about that. You know, you can see a bit. Once it completely dries, I mean it is dry, touch dry, but once it completely dries, then it will go back. I mean, you can obviously always just lift the corner and just allow it to expand a bit more, but it's entirely up to you. It doesn't really concern me. The main thing that does concern me right now is where to go from here. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is to use a little bit of that Payne's grey with some raw sienna, and you will be pleasantly surprised, I hope, that you'd actually get a green. So that's quite an amazing thing about this. The Winsor & Newton Payne's grey, of course. Now I'm going to create the start, or in actual fact the complete tree that's on the outer edge there, and that overhangs down into that, right the way down onto that corner. So the road goes more or less behind that. So, and that comes up there like that, and then we leave a little gap for the next area, always being aware that we're picking up the top of the bank there. So we need that to be quite uneven. So that's that. There will be, and I'm just taking a bit of moisture off the brush, also similar colour there, just running away like that. There we are. But leaving the bank, just soften that with my finger. See the way I've taken it away with my finger? But now I'm leaving the bank like that. We're not going to do too much with that, purely because I don't want to interfere with the background colours. And all I'm going to do now is just clean the brush and just blend it, because that all goes into that background then. There we are. So that's that. Now I'm using a similar colour So it's Payne's Grey and the raw sienna, but I've also put in a little bit of cadmium yellow, and I'm just going to try and pick up just a little deeper touch there, just leave a bit of crispness on that. And this is just sweeping off with the side of the brush, nice and neat. You don't get a brilliant amount of detail. There's a hedge here, some sort of form of shrub or affair there, and then we come down to that area there. It's all part of the undergrowth then, or the bank area. Yeah, so that does that side. We don't want to do any more to that side, purely because just mop that away so it doesn't, purely because we've got a large tree coming in there. Then I'm going to add some cobalt blue to that now, just to sit it back a touch, because I have a tree or a selection of trees that run across there, and I'm putting a little of the light red in there. In fact, I've put in a lot, but never mind, that'll give it a little bit of warmth. So that's a series of trees that run along that back edge of the field there. Very loose, and we just see a little bit of uneven feel there. And then what I'm going to do here, I'm going to gradually soften that. So I've removed a lot of the moisture from the brush, and that just gently goes behind there, and then even more of the moisture off of the brush, just to introduce that to the background, so that we've got some form of land. We have a building we want to place onto that land, and really we can't see it a great deal because it's blurred away in this dank, measly distance. There you go. Brilliant. Now along this bank, that field is pretty much finished, I think, but along this bank we had some undergrowth that got quite warm in tone. So I've used light red there, and just depicting one or two little touches, just running away, and just a little stronger light red there. So I don't want, the reason I'm using light red is that I don't want the red to be too dominant, too strong, because it's not that type of day. There we go, and then that gradually goes towards the back edge there like that, and then of course we have some little areas that run down into the road, and this is how I'm depicting the feeling that the bank stands or lays down, showing the contour of the a bit more red, a bit more yellow, a bit more blue, just to try and pick up some darker touches. But as I say, bit more, bang a bit of Payne's Grey into that. Oh, there you go, look, that gives us a darker green. Look at that, nice bit of texture to that green now in that foreground, and a little bit more Payne's Grey to that now. So Payne's Grey can be used. A lot of people think, wouldn't use Payne's Grey, but of course on a dank day like this, it can depict quite easily see, I'm using my finger just to soften that and to take that up the bank like that. There we are. And of course the bank then stands around the corner there, So I'm laying a bit of paint on and just spreading it around with my finger. There we are. And that way we've created a film of depth. Now I'm going to paint in this tree to the right. If I get my sketch up, you can see the tree to the right. Nothing much behind it, but a nice tree to the right that will actually be very interesting. And I'm using Payne's Grey. The brush seems to have shaped quite nicely, which is not always the case. You don't always get the shapes that you want. There is one or two gaps in the way that tree overhangs there. Like that, there we go. Now, picking up a little more Payne's Grey, a little more cadmium yellow, and a bit of light red again into there, because that will help to darken that in varying places. Could have used the larger brush actually, but hey ho, let's go with the flow. Excuse me. See where it takes us, because you never know. We might be pleasantly surprised what we actually end up with. There we go. Look at that. Darker tone, so more Payne's Grey going in there, like that. And now I'm painting the outer edges. Now, as I say, there's no real light, and yet there is, if you can work out what I'm trying to say. Because let's just complete that and then we'll go back. Nice bit of edging to that hedging there. Let's just try and soften that on the outside edge. There we go, look at that. Just use the finger to soften that. So that's really the trees beyond this tree. Look at that. That gives a nice texture, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Amazing. Right, now purely into that mix is light red and Payne's Grey. So we haven't really got a blue there now, a green, sorry, but we do have a textured sort of tone that's exactly what I want on the underside where the trees overhang the bank and the undergrowth there. So it's a couple of trees probably, can't really tell, but and I want that to come right into the bank, because that proves it is in the foreground area. And it's really, really dark now, so just light red and Payne's Grey. Be surprised what you can do with Payne's Grey. And a lot of people think that it's not really usable, but it must be, and I must emphasise, it must be the Winsor & Newton artist quality Payne's Grey. There we go. That's that lovely deep tone that, and see the way I've left some light coming through the tree, and that's also very important. Now, while that's all drying off nicely, a couple of things I want to do. I want to add a figure. That's the first thing I want to do. But to help depict the fact that it's wet and raining, the figure will actually be holding a brolly. So I'm using the flat and cadmium red to depict the feeling that you don't want that brolly too large. There we go. It's got to be holding a brolly walking away from the scene. I think that's probably about it. Not completely round. There we are. It doesn't look like a brolly yet, but hopefully, all being well, it will do. And I want to just give an impression of a figure. So behind that brolly will be a figure, and all we really need to do is just pick up, obviously, raincoat, so there's not a great deal of legs underneath that, but that, I think, is probably, you know, a little bit of shadow, and I'm sure we can call it a figure. And also we're going to put a dog in as well, which go. Someone walking a country lane. And we will need to show that it is actually a brolly. So I'm putting a centerpiece there, and then a feeling of the ribs. A little bit darker that side. Got to just show that feeling of the actual roundness of those outside edges, you know, where the ribs are. I'm sure that probably does it. Now we're also going to pick up, we're going to lift off some lighter tone on the on the left hand side. There we go. And if we can do that, I think we have the opportunity to create a feeling that we do have someone holding a brolly. And I'm just going to lift off now with that one there, because that normally lifts off a little better. There you go. So with a bit of modelling, I think we can safely say that is a figure walking down on a miserly day holding a brolly. Now, before I put in the presumably they're electric pylons, being out in the country, running down the lane, but I'll just want to put in, there is a lovely cottage which is there like that. So I'm putting in really purely the roof areas to start, and once the roof areas are in, you begin to get the feeling that perhaps they are buildings. Go. So that's the roof work of those buildings. Now I'm just going to put in very dark sort of area there that's part of that building, and then I'm going to put in a couple of windows like that. There you go. Just pull that down a little bit there, just blend that away. There we are. And then clean the brush, and we're going to just blend that away so it just blurs into the distance. There we are. And that, you can see it's farm buildings, but it's not depicted in any great form, and that's the reason why we're really why that actually works. Just a little bit of blue, because I want we do have a little bit of blue there, to indicate some distant land. Could have gone in right on the word go really, but there you go. That's sufficient to show that we do have something going on in the distance. Now I'm going to put in the first pylon that actually I'm going to put it there because it seems to fit nicely, and it's been there a while. Make it too wide, and there is just a little bit of that greenery at the base there, and it drops in to that area there. That's not a tree, it's a pylon. And then I'm going to use just a damp brush to just soften again, just to allow that show a little bit of the where it sits into the ground or the bank. And then it breaks out again here, so that goes like that, and breaks in again there. So still damp, that may be of benefit to it, may actually be of no benefit, but there you go. And it is pretty much the same thickness, so it's not like a tree. It's pretty much the same thickness all the way up. Bit of a lean to it, you get that occasionally with these pylons that head off up, and then it breaks out again at the top there. So I'm going to bring that right down to the end of that, and then it's going to sit up just like that, and I'm going to finish it pretty much there because I want really the feeling that we've got wires heading down, and I'm just putting a little bit of roundness onto the top of that. There we go. Then we weaken that just a touch so it's not quite as dominant, and we have another one here that is just quite considerably lighter in tone, and that breaks into that feeling of overhanging leafing trees. Then we soften that again. Oh, and it's got to have that feeling that the bank goes down, that's it. And then that then breaks out here. Could be just a bit wider, whoops, not that wide, but don't want to make it too narrow. There you go, that's probably about it. And then I'm just going to pull that up and try and do this in one particular stroke of the brush like that. It's not going to be in any way depicting a perfect pylon in any shape or form, but you know, it really does need to be put in. And then finally, a bit of blue added to that, a bit more water, so it's even lighter, because we have another one that I can see here, and that's very, very there we go, and just soften that there as it heads in to that. We didn't want that to smudge quite like that, so let's see if I can attend to that. There we go. There we go. Look at that. And just lift that off. I want that to blur in. Go. And that will finish. It wants to be fairly low down. Doesn't want to be too high up. But finishes somewhere there. There we go. Good. Now I've picked up some Payne's grey with a bit of cadmium red in, because we're going to have supports where the wires actually are. And I'm going to put 3 in for this. The first one goes well out of picture like that. Then the next one comes down to here, which is a little bit closer. And what I'm doing, I'm going to go 2, 3, and then I'm going to join up here. But if you notice, I'm not actually completing the complete line of the cable. And then we're then going into this, and they are quite simply 3, 1, 2, 3. Go. And that is the cabling that runs away into the distance there. Then of course they then run across there like that. Okay. And really, that to me, we won't see them anymore, because I think there could be an extra one there because of the support. There you go. We've got a support on that one, and you could have a support on this one if you want it. Yeah, there you go. Apart from that, that's the pollen. Well, to be fair, there's there's not a great deal more to do. All I'm going to do now is mix Payne's grey, and this time I'm using cadmium red. So Payne's grey and cadmium red with the big mop brush, because I want that to indicate shadow. Now I don't want to be too dark to start. In actual fact, I don't want to be too dark all round, because it is a dull, dank day. But having said that, we must have some form of shadow running along there like that. I'll just sharpen up that figure shortly, and then I'm going to use a damp brush just to blend that as the bank, and that just brings it round to the edge of the track there. Begin to see a bit of form now to that, and a little bit there on the underside, and as it goes round the corner, so that stands out and comes round like that, and that just hangs up, gives a bit of texture, but we don't want too much texture if we can help it. There we are, just a little bit of extra punch to that. And then of course we have, let's go a little darker now, with the little touches here and there, soft blending of some of the left hand side. Nothing too dominant, nothing too brilliant, but it does show up a sense that we've got the edge of the field there. So quite delicate, don't want too much in the way of, it's more tonal. These sort of pictures tend to be more tonal than they are colourful, and that's how you pick up atmosphere for these sort of subjects. And that then just tinkers away. Right, okay, well, I'll accept that as a description like that. And unlike the sketch, I'm going to soften that, because I want that to soften just with a damp brush, to try and give that just additional. Clean the brush now thoroughly and blend it away. There you go. There we are. So we've got a little bit of light and a little bit of tone in that field. There we go. Yep, that's good. Lovely moody feel in that field now. And then we come over to the right hand side, more red, more Payne's grey, so more cadmium red, more Payne's grey, and then we then pick up the feel of these branches that overhang, and you can even pull them across there like that. There we go, and then we soften those with the side of the brush, which all gives a lovely feeling of additional texture. Go too dark with this, I think it will dry up quite nicely, but you never know. We're always aware of overtoning things, and that's what we're doing. We're toning. We're not actually. There we are, a little bit darker there. There you go, top right hand corner, and then we can then come through to the softer area, a bit more red in there. But I did have red, as you know. I do like red when in my tree work, where the greens are. There we go, and I'm even going to have a bit more red, and you might say, what's he doing there? Well, that's the way I like to see things, and that shows off the green. I always say reds show off greens. There we go. There we go. Just nice and neat there. Yeah, we'll leave that at that. That's lovely. Allow that to dry. Bit more Payne's grey going in there now to pick up some cool shadow work. Now this is where we have to be a little careful, because just showing just as if there's a bit of reflection from that figure, and down along the bank, and then some softer reflection again, because that's really, you know, it looks like a river, because in actual fact it actually was, you know. And just going to soften that again with a damp brush, just to give that sort of image of water, really, because it is just a damp day. And these are all things that I'm putting in that I didn't put in on the sketch, and that is purely because that's what you do when you sketch. You get a sense of light and the feeling of light, and then you put your own sort of stamp on the whole thing when you get here in the studio. And that, to me, gives me that sort of what I saw that day, really. You know, that lovely damp sort of feel, beautiful feeling of dark colour. Going to be a little darker now in this lower area. Want to show a little bit of that. We'll deal with the other side in a second. And then I can lift up them with that colour while it's still damp and create the illusion of a bank. So let me just show you that again in a bit more stronger sort of sense of it all, a bit more Payne's grey. Well, it's very, very dark, but probably a bit too dark, but there you go. Well, in actual fact, you probably get away with it purely that, but I sometimes damp it and then stretch it using the brush to help, just to help things along a touch. One or two little touches there, one or two little dots and dashes there, just to bring that foreground together, you know, just to bring that foreground into the foreground. A little bit there, a little bit there, 2 little touches there we go. And as always, stretch them down as well as up, because that can also give that lovely sort of variation that we're looking for to create that illusion of a damp day. And all we need then is similar, not quite as dark as that, so let's lose a bit of colour. Let's just start off with the bank, the way the bank goes up there like that, and we spread that through, we pull it down like that, and of course then we have the odd little bit of pulling across of the colour just to soften that a bit. And there we go, we're pretty much there really, you know. It's all gone a bit darker now. It's all a matter of tone rather than colour. And if you can try and get that feeling of the day in that sort of way, obviously it's going to be quite dark under there, just to watch it don't dry too much, and all around the base there we are. Now I want to spread this up around the base, because there's obviously undergrowth there, and this is then going up the bank, and this is spreading across the road. So a very damp day here, and let's just show a little bit of light in places like that, so that, you know, there we go. And then we pull that across again and up the bank and spread, mould and spread. And I think I'm going to allow that to dry and see what I've got. Well, as you can see, I've taken the surround away. It's all beginning to dry back very, very nicely. So all I'm going to do now is to sign up in the paint that I've used, my new signature. That's my new style of signature, just with a steed. Clean the brush, bit of Payne's grey, very weak. Just going to flip a couple of birds in. Perhaps 3. And that does it. That is the completed painting. A very grey day near Molehill Hut, and it's wet too. Well, there you have the finished painting, produced or inspired by this sketch that I did at Molehill Hut, on the way up to Molehill Hut. It was a very wet day. We've got quite a lot of rain coming down, so I sat in the car, produced a ink drawing. Then when I arrived at my accommodation, while it's still clear in my mind, I then produced this study, so I knew roughly where tones was going. And now in my studio, I've used both this and my drawing to try and capture the mood of the day. Obviously, I've decided to put one figure in with a brolly walking a dog. And I think that does probably tell you that the figure, because of the figure, it's actually raining. And it's nice, a subtle scene. Payne's grey used a lot, but overall I think it's come off particularly well. If you have enjoyed watching, then please subscribe to my YouTube channel and just click the logo bottom right hand corner, and please comment if you need to know anything, and we'll see you all again next time. Thank you very much for watching.